This is the one that has the time stamping, so people won't have to watch the whole
That
thing.
works great.
Yeah,
I like it.
everybody ought to have it, really.
Well, what I was thinking is we do oral history interviews, and if I could feed that into the system and typed it all out for me, it's through.
Absolutely.
So I think I mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Go check. Gina, I think you.
Good.
Yes. Okay, good. Exactly, so we will start our meeting. Sherry, could you do roll call, please?
Jerry Akins?
Here.
Vice Chair Quinn?
Here.
Commissioners McCready?
Here?
Hayes?
Here.
Humphrey?
Yes.
McCadden?
Here.
And one vacancy.
Yes, so Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd all rise. All of you. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Public communications. Members of the public wishing to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card and file it with the secretary. Cards are available in the council chambers lobby. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the chair. Speakers should state their name and address for the record and must direct their comments to the chair, not the audience or press. While the Historic Preservation Commission is in session, members of the commission, city staff, and members of the audience are expected to maintain order and decorum and to obey the orders of the chair. Mr. Lewis, our museum representative, isn't here. One thing, and I don't think we'll have an issue, is that on Thursday nights I have a commitment outside, a weekly commitment in Ventura that my wife and I lead. And usually when I'm unable to get there by 7 o'clock, she's there to cover. But this afternoon, or actually yesterday, I dropped her off in Redondo Beach, and she's now the grandmother nanny to our 2-month-and-a-day-old grandson. So if we could, thank you. If we could finish close to 6, that would be great. So thank you. Minutes of the prior meeting of June 14th, 2018. Are there any questions, apostrophes, commas, misspellings? We really miss Pat Clark Dorner when she used to do all of the punctuation corrections for us.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second that.
Go ahead.
Roll call?
Roll call, please.
McCready?
I was absent, so I abstain.
Okay, James?
Yes.
Convery?
Abstain.
Quinn?
Yes.
Akins?
Yes.
McCadden?
Yes.
Thank you all. Okay. I was still looking at the minutes. Okay, so the next item we have for discussion is the Annual Historic Preservation Award. So we talked about this at our last meeting. We came up with a number of names that were submitted and a number of assignments that were made to go out and do a little bit of fact-finding, a little bit of information gathering. And so included in our package are the information that came from those brief biographies. And then also the criteria is on page 2 of 2 of our package. And the list of those that have received the Historic Preservation Award recipients in the past are listed on attachment B, page 1 of 1. Two things to keep in mind: that we are considering and potentially recommending 2 different awards. One is Terrence Hill is nominated for a Lifetime Achievement Award. You can see that David Mason and Julie Tumamayat Sensley have received that in the past. So we have information on Terry for that award, and then there are other individuals that were nominated for the Historic Preservation Award that we do on an annual basis, and you can see who those were: Khaled Alawar, Mark Lewis, the group Twice Sold Tales, that's the bookstore that's on the left side of the library, the east side of the library, and Don Teeting. So I will open it up to, do you have a staff report there, Mr. Vega?
You actually just covered everything I was going to cover, so
Next time I'll,
it's fine with me.
on your grand moment, I'll just shut up. Sorry. Okay. We do appreciate Mr. Vega standing in for our Community Development Director Tuesday night. They thought that Luke Connolly might be back by the end of the month, so.
Right, by the end of this month. Yeah,
Is that your staff report?
yeah, sure.
Great. Thank you. So open it to discussion again for the Lifetime Achievement Award.
I have an update about Terry. You know, I live next door to the Hills, and I speak with Claire frequently. I'm taking care of some of the things at their home while they're gone. And Terry had a surgery. You know, he's been in the hospital for weeks and weeks and weeks, but he had a surgery. It's got to be about 10 days now. And he's doing well. He's still in the hospital. Claire is coming back and forth, staying in Pasadena with her daughter, but coming up every couple of days, you know, just to get the mail and whatnot. So, you know, but he's doing well, which is a really, I hate to say it's a surprise, but I'm really pleased. You never know with these things. So I'm really happy that we're able to get to this item at this point when he's, you know, aware of everything and feeling a little better, I hope. Just wanted to put that out there. You know, I think it's a fantastic nomination.
I'll piggyback on that just a little bit. I'd been given an assignment. So I did talk, as it says, I spoke with Claire 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, because I had to get the information to Sherry, and she said that she asked me if she could tell Terry. I said, you know, it's pretty much public knowledge, and please do so. And she said he would be thrilled beyond belief. I think in my package, upon hearing it, he may be doing cartwheels down the street or down the hallway, but he would be thoroughly thrilled for this. So that's just kind of a little bit of a personal insight and a report on what she related to me above and beyond what Commissioner Combry shared. So
I think it's a terrific nomination. I wasn't here last month, but I just remember when I first came on the commission and how helpful to me Terry was, and how helpful he continues to be. So I think it's a terrific nomination.
excellent.
I agree.
Other comments?
I made the nomination, so you know I'm happy with it. I did, I went off of the sheet that had everyone's dates of when they come up for renewal, and I did count 25 years. I know in your notes, Claire thought it was 22 or 23, but I do think it's 25, at least if your numbers are correct.
Yeah, so we'll, if in fact we do this nomination tonight, we'll do an in-depth bio on him that will be presented to the city council, and that Normally, these awards are presented to the recipients in the first meeting of December,
Okay.
which was fortuitous last year because the presentation was made to Pat Weinberger. I was getting updates in Sedona from David. Well, that was before, that took place before when she received it, and it was fortuitous in the timing because she passed away right around that same time. So, any other comments on Terry for the Lifetime Achievement Award? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
What would your motion be?
Terrence Hill as a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a made and a second, and can we pull a Mayor Johnston and just do this by acclamation?
We can go ahead and do a roll call. McCready,
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Convery?
Yes.
Quinn?
Yes.
Akins?
Yes,
McHatton?
Yes.
excellent.
Wow.
He will be thrilled. Again, this is a public record, so first person that has the opportunity to share that with Claire, please do so. It's not a surprise, so that would be fabulous.
Good night.
Even better. Yeah, she was very, very pleased about that. And reported the good things and bad things about the hospital that he's in. When I talked to her, our bad thing was trying to find a wheelchair so my daughter-in-law could take her new baby home.
Oh,
Somehow it's always hard to find a wheelchair when you're trying to leave the hospital. Okay, the other award then is for the annual Historic Preservation Award. And we have, as you can see by attachment B, page 1, there have been years where there have been multiple nominees. Just wanted to point that out, but these are the individuals that were discussed again at last meeting. So any discussions, observations, additions people have?
I'm just really impressed with Twice Sold Tales as a group, because looking at the list, it's not, well, there is the Civic Association and the Library Foundation, so there are precedent with groups, but they worked really hard to get that done, and I think I just really love it, so I have to speak in favor of Twice Sold Tales.
I think I really am impressed by Dawn
Mm-hmm.
Thieding, I guess.
Teeting?
Teeding?
Teeting?
Yeah.
DH is
T.H. Teeding.
pretty much silent.
Teeding. About the work that she's done on the historic and prehistoric Indians and preserving, because there isn't much known about that. And even Gina and I were wondering about it lately. And I'd like to know more about, the Indians in the valley and have more history about that.
Okay.
Or even wherever else she's looking at it, I'm not really sure. But I'm really impressed by her steadfast dedication to it.
Okay, thank you.
I also like Chair Aiken's nomination of Twice Sold Tales. They've been great correspondents with us through the process, and they've been with us for years now, coming in and updating us on the plans, and John Lambert has always been so good about that, keeping us abreast of the changes and the progress, and so I would endorse that nomination, Chair Aikens.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Quinn? Any
Well, I
thoughts?
think they're all very worthy nominations, and so I might think that, although it's hard to say, there's 3 very qualified people that we have here. We could do 2, but I don't know that I want to do 3. So I think we should.
Give everyone the award.
Yeah, I think we should whittle it down.
Well, on that note, though, I do agree they're all very qualified. John Lambert's been working in preservation and everything positive in Ojai for years. I've been here 25 years, as long as I can remember. And Mark Lewis and Dawn both working a lot. But I do lean toward Twice Sold Tales because of the length of time and the steadfast amount of work that that group has really focused on. So it's sort of a combination of that, I guess.
Okay.
I do like the twice sold tales as well. I think they're valuable to our community, and I like how they worked with the commission and like you said, been involved for as long as you've been here, 25 years. I think that's important. I like that it's a group too, that it's and that everyone utilizes it. So I think that's important.
Great. Thank you very much.
Although I do think that everyone is worthy of it on this list.
Very much so. So on the twice sold tales, Darwin and I have a lot of experience with them over the 2+ years that they were striving. It was interesting to me to find out that the backstory really was the librarian Mary Lynch, who started the whole thing when she said, "Can I get a conference room?" And she said they were working with the county for a couple of years, trying to get a conference room in. This is something we should keep in mind, because one of the items that was recommended as possible doing a historic report on and looking at as a potential city landmark is the Ojai Library, which is owned by the county. And I can only imagine, if you couldn't get a conference room in, what it might entail in trying to get it made as a historical landmark, but that may come soon. But I like that when they went ahead and did the whole revamp of twice sold tales in order to put a conference room on that side, that they actually did the time and effort to restore the front to its original being. So as John said, we got a conference room, and we got something that will forever be marked in Ojai's history. So I like that. On Don Teeting, I have I think perhaps more insight with Don on all of the different things. When I first looked at that, and it came out, there was a question about cultural resources. I think there at times seems to think that cultural resources and historic resources are independent. But again, if you go through our Historic Preservation Award recipients, you find that Julie Timamaya Stensley received the annual award in 2001. And she received the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2015. So I think we've touched on that. I don't think we've perhaps recognized just how important that is to our community and for the cultural heritage protection that are needed. I talked with Dawn. I happened to be often at the museum before she was headed off to the meetings. The meetings took, Mr. Councilman Wyrick will know, took a year and a half. That sound about right? Yeah, took a year and a half at least.
More closer to 2.
Okay. So 18 to 24 months. I know that it was difficult. There were, of course, highly competitive interests within the valley going between the construction homeowners at times. We have people in the valley who are where preservation is very important to us. That often is until you're going to put a swimming pool right where that cultural heritage site is. And so I know in putting together the cultural resource pathways that they worked with members of the city council on, that took a long time, a lot of effort, a lot of enjoyment of the community, and a lot of meetings attended separately and together with the council in order to come up with this actually being in place. I also know that in trying to research other cities on how they handle these kind of things, they found that they don't. And once again, I think City of Ojai, congratulations to them, is leading the work in the cultural heritage preservation. And so my leaning would be towards recognizing Twice Sold Tales and recognizing Don Teeting for the annual award. I just think both of them have put in years worth of continuous, ongoing, dedicated effort in order to make those two very key things happen. So that's...
May I give
Yes.
one little point of history?
Yes, please.
It's, was in 2011 on the list. They nominated 4 people for the award, the annual award. And at that time, David Mason said he declined to receive the award because he felt it wasn't special when you nominated more than one person. So it got changed where he received the Historic Lifetime Achievement Award, and then he accepted that. But he had an issue with more than one award winner, just so you know. But of course, you can do whatever you want. I just wanted to give you the history.
So as I raced home from Redondo Beach today, grabbed a shower, I reached in my drawer, and I decided tonight I'm channeling David Mason. So for those that know David, they know that David was wearing this. His roommate made this for him and wearing it when he did pass, and so it ended up with me. So when I felt the need to channel David Mason, I put the bracelet on. So far, I will tell you that it's 6 for 6. So if you see me wearing it, figure out what side I'm open for that night. But so, yeah, I remember that. But sorry, David, I'll stick with mine too. Yes, Vice Chair.
I just have a question. Before I was on the board, back here in, well, several different places, but particularly I'm just going to say back here at 2013, we were giving awards just for being a member of the board?
No, I think that's something, there's a couple of things that we need to update.
Well, there's actual resolutions involved in
Yeah.
each. Once you nominate tonight, at the next meeting, a resolution will be coming back to you to adopt, and then that resolution will go to the council for ratification before we order the plaques and they do the presentation in December. But the resolution has their bio and a lot more information. This is just a quick checklist.
Okay, so there would be additional, okay,
Definitely.
thank you.
Information, yeah.
Yeah, for example, Tia Andrews was recognized for the Chumash garden that she and the Garden Club put in behind the museum. She also happened to be at that time a Ojai Valley Museum board member. I think I've been a board member twice as much as these two individuals, so that's not necessarily a thing. Brett Bradigan is mentioned twice. Elise DePoit sent an update to Sherry earlier this week that she wasn't recognized solely as a museum docent. She was recognized for her work in the update on the Ojai Valley history book. So,
I actually have a new list I've created, and it's going to have more information, so that could be provided.
great, thank you, Sherry. Any other questions? If I could, I would like to make a motion that somewhat encompasses the recommendations tonight. So I would like to make a motion that for the annual resolution, again, sorry, David, I know I'm channeling you, but I'd like to recommend Twice Sold Tells Group and Don Teeting as recipients of the annual Historic Preservation Award. Is there a second out there?
I second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I think after hearing Sherry, I'm more in favor of just having one.
Okay. Any other discussion? Can you call for a vote?
Take a motion, or
Please.
a vote, yeah, excuse me. McCready,
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Convery,
Yes.
Quinn,
No.
Akins?
Yes.
McHatton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you all.
Well, I would like to make a motion for the Lifetime Achievement Award for Terry Hill.
Didn't we do that?
We
have-
voted on that?
Yeah.
Where was I?
You were in jet lag.
I'm still in Portugal. I don't know. Okay, thank you. I withdraw my motion.
And also just direct staff to go ahead and prepare the resolutions for the next meeting.
Okay, so Mr. Vega, our acting community development director. So we'll basically need the bios in order to do that. If you need help with that, I've done those the past few years, so
Okay.
I know these individuals very well. So
Okay.
I'm able to help in anything I can with that, if that's okay with the commission. Okay, thank you all.
The lady.
Okay, where are we? Doing so good on time. Okay, 1, 2. Social media plan assignments.
Can I speak to that?
If you would, please.
I met with James Vega the other day, and we talked about what the city expects and what I want to do, and we're going to meet again, and I will transfer ownership of the Facebook page, and we're going to work on having them see what we do ahead of time, and we're not going to do a Twitter right now. Twitter doesn't really seem necessary anyway. It's not a visual thing. I feel strongly about having an Instagram. Facebook owns Instagram anyway, so we, I think, came to the agreement of just archiving it. So if we do, at some point, go, the city wants us to have an Instagram page, we don't have to start from scratch. We will have all the houses or properties that we've talked about on Facebook, then archived, and then just put live onto Instagram at some point. But it would just be private for now, and then yeah, I'd like to meet again with Mr. Vega to make sure that you have the ownership of it.
So I should have gone to you first for a staff report. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
New at this.
I just wanted to add a little to that, in that I reviewed the social media plan, and I thought it was a very thorough and solid plan. The challenge, and we did meet earlier this week, the challenge for a city like Ojai that doesn't have a public information office with multiple staff people is we always have to balance the resources versus all the things that we could do. And so what we've been doing, there's currently one commission that has a Facebook page. It's the Arts Commission, and we've been able to do that using our existing resources by taking about 10 minutes a week to review their posts. And, it's 10 minutes give or take, but they will publicize the new gallery, and they'll send some art and send some text. And so we just kind of pre-screen it. It's all done through the city, with the city maintaining the ownership of the page, because it has been an issue in other cities where a commissioner moves or something, and then there goes the page. So that's just the kind of the concerns overall with public information. So I think that this kind of compromise would be a good fit for the city. It's been working well for the Arts Commission. They actually had they had something funny happen where when they opened up their Facebook page, our IT guy, James Hahn, called the commissioner and thought that somebody had hacked into their Arts Commission calendar, because the traffic like quadrupled overnight. So it seems like one of their missions and one of your missions is to promote those the arts, or in this case historic preservation within the valley. It seems like this is a good kind of compromise using current resources to get there. So
Great. Thank you very
I have
much.
a question. When you review the posts from the Arts Commission, do you do it before they upload them?
yes.
So they send you what they want to do, and you guys put it on the page?
Yeah, and one thing we were talking about is we can plan things out. So I also do the city Facebook page, which is a little more, we find out about something 2 days from now, we got to post it. Mm-hmm. With the Arts Commission and hopefully with HPC, we can plan things out a month in advance, sit down and look at them and post them, and it's not going to be hopefully anything, super critical that has a chance of causing a lot of controversy. Mm-hmm. So it's been working for the Arts Commission. I think it'll work for HPC.
And you worked this out with
Yeah,
Commissioner
yeah,
McCadden?
coming right back to you. Yes.
So I was thinking, like we talked about, featuring a home or something, some element of historic preservation in Ojai. Oh, I thought it was on. Sorry. And that could be picked in advance. We could actually do a whole year in advance. We could decide what homes we want to feature. We could talk to the property owners or building owners, and we were thinking maybe once a week, where one was about the homeowner, why they wanted to purchase it or be involved in heritage conservation, as well as maybe a feature in the home, and just small things each week with photos. That could be done months in advance and super easy. The one thing that we were talking about that we didn't really come to an understanding yet, so it's kind of up in the air, was having there be a few places like the Arts Commission that has their Facebook page, as well as the city, and maybe a couple of other places like Ventura, if they had a historic preservation event going on, or Santa Barbara, and it was timely that as long as we stayed within these 5 different Facebook pages, and it was something that had to do with historic preservation, an event that was happening, could I link their post without having to have approval? And I think that was what we were trying to see. It wouldn't be something new, it would be something that was going on. Because if it was something that Santa Barbara put it up that tomorrow they're going to be doing this thing that's showing a film, or I like to be able to just link it. And plus it would keep our page a little bit more active and relevant.
Yeah, there's a couple of things like that we will probably need to work out. In theory, I don't foresee any issues, but I'd like to maybe see a couple. And so that's why, in short, the recommendation from staff was for the HPC to designate a member to work with a staff person. I think initially it's going to be me doing the staff work, but once Mr. Connolly is back, that may change. But so that was where we were going with that recommendation.
In the meantime, before we had this conversation, I was under the impression, I didn't realize that I had to do that. So there is a Facebook page, and the only thing on there are links. So you could get an idea of what I was going to do. As soon as I got our packet, I just stopped, and then I asked to speak with you. But up until that point, if you look at it, you'll see they're very benign, very city-oriented, historic preservation-oriented links.
So, Commissioner McCatton, 2 questions. What can we as a commission do to support you? And 2, when do we want to trumpet this to the public to get them to come over and like the page?
You can ask your friends and family and everybody now, because that just will be on there as we post. And I think that we talked about doing one of your houses in the fall, and possibly if we can just maybe, this is my problem with, like, the other night. I just feel like the commission, we come here, we're once a month, we sit here, and we don't have any conversation time because we have to be concerned about Brown Act. I would love to just communicate. I guess that's part of my social media thing. It's like, when can we have a discussion that doesn't take the time, and we're not on camera, where we can just sit there and go, what do we want to do for the year? What houses, what establishments do we want to do? And have it, can we do that? No, we can't do that.
Short answer is no.
I have a question. When you said the page is already created with links on it, so you already built the page?
Well, it's just a Facebook
Okay,
page.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
But you're familiar, for some reason I'm drawing a blank, but there is a community Ojai page about the history of Ojai, and for some reason I cannot think of what it is. What is
Rick
it?
Basacci put it up.
But what's it called? It's been around forever, and it's very
it-
popular.
yeah.
It's like, you're from Ojai
Oh,
when,
okay.
or
So
something
the-
like that. But
Yeah.
it's got a lot of historical, it's mostly history of the Ojai Valley, which is not, like, I don't feel it's competitive at all with what you're doing. I think it's a nice partnership, but, if you wanted to get like 5,000 followers, just post it on there and everyone will follow you.
What I wanted to do, which is when I wanted to become a commissioner, was because I wanted to do this part of things too. But I wanted to do it in official. I mean, anybody could do a fan of Ojai at any
totally.
time. But I wanted to have this be the official page. Even if it wasn't as popular, it was accurate.
Mhm.
And it wasn't speculation or hearsay, especially when we get into heated topics, like with the school board. It's like there was a lot of, on those pages, a lot of conversations back and forth, but there was no official voice.
So
And I would just like this page to be the official voice.
For instance, the Chaparral auditorium question, would you post the agenda on there? I mean, how would you have a conversation on there that wouldn't turn into something that's maybe not?
It wouldn't be responding to people.
Okay.
It would just be more,
Like
this
posting
is
our
what we did.
discussion or posting a
Yeah,
link to
this
the
is-
video.
It could be a
here.
photo
Yeah.
of the school, of the landmark and
Yeah.
why we wanted the landmark.
Yeah.
And just factual,
Yeah.
just not.
So you'd
having-
post I would imagine that you would post the links to our meetings on there, because a lot of people don't think to go to the city page and scramble around, try to find it. So that's a good thing, yeah.
And
So, along that line, and this may be what James is talking about, the city has a new software for the city meetings. It's fabulous. There's no sitting at my desk going, oh my gosh, fast forward. Oh my gosh, fast forward. You can do searches that are just amazing. The nice thing is you can, in line with what you're saying, you can go and tell people to go to such and such a page and post live links to that, because the programs are on Facebook. And with the new software, they can just go right to the spot. They can do keyword search. Why don't you tell us, if you would, James, about that? What the new software and what it means.
yeah, we have a new software called Granicus, which is used for the County of Ventura, City of Ventura, City of Oxnard. So it's becoming more popular, but it allows for the city to live stream meetings, so that if you don't have Spectrum, which it's the more and more people I talk to, it sounds like that's a majority of people that don't have Spectrum. You're able to watch the meetings live through your computer, and then like Cherikin said, you can choose your specific item that you want to see. So today somebody can go in and say, I only care about the award conversation. They can click there, and it'll take them straight to that point in the meeting. So it's pretty useful, and really will help with allowing people to get information on what they actually care about. And just the other point I wanted to make quickly. So I wasn't trying to be short when I said short answer. No, I was going to add to that. But what I'm thinking may be an option for the commission to look at, and we're going to talk about future items later, but I think your best option would be to have a future item to talk about, and maybe you and I in the meantime can start putting some things together and looking, but we can talk about what kind of the plan or what the commission wants to see on that on the Facebook page.
So I think belong to most every Facebook group, especially the ones where I see most of the history posted up are the other Ojai, which is pretty much linked to people who have lived here, live here, and if you don't know somebody that's lived here, Nancy Jones ain't gonna let you in. But what used to happen is people would go, oh, I don't know the answer to this. Hey, David Mason, tell me. And they would tag David, which is partially why he stopped looking at Facebook. But they do that now, so they'll post that up. Drew will do some research. Craig may go online. There's, certain individuals. So that's kind of not really an organized. I mean, people put kind of a wild, hey, I had this question.
Right.
Through everything that we went through as a commission in the plaques and everything else, my thought was, wouldn't it be nice to have an Ojai Historifact, basically where we're doing fact checking the Ojai history. And so I don't know if that's something that, we could, because we should be the fact knowers or the fact finders, that might be a role that maybe we could
We can do with the museum.
ascribe to, well, us or the museum.
Or some joint venture that we could do together.
But I love what you're doing. And I think after the last meeting, you can go on there and you can not only sign up yourself, but you can do invitations. And so I went through and made, 20 invitations. I would have done 100 or so, but, it's not up and running yet. And I didn't want to invite people to go there and then them go, oh, one of those. So I am enthusiastic supporter, and I appreciate your doing that.
So what is the next step? Is it to approve officially connecting the Facebook page with James, or what do you see as the next step?
So the staff recommendation for this item is for the commission to appoint a commissioner to work with me on this.
I
And we
recommend
did that
Gina
with
McMahon.
I think did we make you official beforehand? I thought,
I don't think it's been official, no.
last time?
So I make a motion that the commission appoint Commissioner McHatton to head up the social media endeavor.
I second.
Excellent. Can we get a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Not sure if I should abstain or not.
You can fully support yourself. I fully support you supporting yourself. So getting back to being able to talk, and again, Commissioner McCready's been around. Our councilman will remember this. Years ago, we used to have the HBC had a slew of ad hoc committees. We had an ad hoc committee for Ojai Day, for this, for that. And then we had a Brown Act instruction, and we all came away feeling guilty that, and all of the ad hoc committees were disbanded, only to, when I go to a myriad of the other commission meetings, especially I think the Art Commission, they have ad hoc committees out the wazoo. So I don't know why we couldn't form an ad hoc committee made up of 3 individuals, yourself and 2 others, and give you an opportunity to interface with 2 other people and then come back with recommendations. So any thoughts on that? Is that something we can do?
Can I add one thing? So I actually I've been talking to some of the arts commissioners about that as well, and if you created a ad hoc committee, there's a true ad hoc committee, which is a committee that's appointed for, let's say, 3 months to get this going, and that committee would be fine and not subject to the Brown Act. What a lot of people have done though is appointed committees that are in perpetuity and called them ad hoc committees, which that is not an ad hoc committee. So kind of the 2 options I see here would be to, it would be to create, an ad hoc committee with, let's say 3 members for a month or 2 to get the social media kind of proposal together. The second would be to appoint just 2 commissioners to work on it. Well, this is a 7-member body, but we have a vacancy. So yeah, 2 commissioners, and then it wouldn't be a Brown Act issue, which is actually kind of how I'm trying to push people, is just staying below the quorum. But so those are 2 options to move forward.
All right. Can I just maybe have another month to work this out with you, maybe present it to all of you with how I would like to do it as a discussion item before we break off, because I feel like I'm going to come up with ideas and then I'm not going to be able to communicate with everybody. Can I just maybe present something again and kind of, because when I was planning on
I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah, when I was planning on this, I was kind of, some cowboy version of it. Now that it's more official, I want to rethink it and present it again.
Okay, and then if you could just, in thinking about it over the next few months, if you could go along with Mr. Vega's thoughts that on whether you would recommend to us a 2-person committee, or perhaps a 3-person, 2 to 3 months to get it going, ad hoc committee. So
What I would prefer is a different committee, a commissioner, every few months, because it's different insight. Like when we were at the museum the other night, the houses that you were passionate about were very different than the houses that I were passionate about. So it would be nice to have different commissioners all maybe give their input and have their voices in here too. And so if we kind of alternated, because this isn't really political. This is just showcasing our landmarks and our Ojai history.
Yeah, I don't see any issue with that.
That's something
but we'll
we
come
could do?
back with the plan, but that is something you can
Okay.
do where every 2 months you alternate or something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic.
So maybe you 2 can work together, and then next month you can come back with what your thoughts are.
Perfect.
That would be fabulous.
Thank you.
So, anything else? How we doing? Pretty good. So, future agenda items. Mr. Vega.
Okay, so we have our future agenda items here, and it sounds like we may have just added one to it, but right now, for August 9th, we had the Historic Preservation Award nomination and motion, but we just did that. Oh, the resolution. Okay, I'm sorry. So we'll have the resolution and then the plans for Ojai Day booth, and it sounds like we'll also want to add a follow-up on the social media.
Sounds good. Let's see, Commissioner comments, then we'll get to, just real quick. You reminded me, Mark Lewis, this one's for you. The museum last Saturday opened up a new exhibit. It's called Starchitecture. It is based on the somewhat on the book that Craig Walker just did. That's available in the museum. It's my ad for the moment. Somebody asked me, is the exhibit just on the book items in the book? And no, it is not. It has about some of the show features about half of the houses that are in the book, and then the other half of the show are items and architectural items that aren't in the book. So if you bought the book, there's still half a show at least for you. And I have walked through it as it's being developed, and it looks fabulous. Do we get a thumbs up? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? Okay, there's our ad for you, Mr. Mark Lewis. The other thing is, again, that is a benefit from this commission. Tomorrow at 2:30, at the end of La Paz and the beginning of Taormina, they're very careful about where this is going to be. They are going to be installing the Taormina sign. Ojai's first and only so far historic district. So the big sign, there's another sign that will be put on Arundel, but you can't get into Taormina that way anymore, at least without, it's a one-way. So again, tomorrow at 2:30, if you would like to join us, recognition of Taormina as a historic district and a long-awaited sign that was approved by this commission. So I think it's going to be a fabulous event. Other reports from commissioners?
I do have one other thing.
Yes, please.
So if the item that was discussed at the city council meeting, if they're going to bring it back up on the 29th, should we have it on the 9th as a discussion item for us for whatever facts missions that happen between now and then, or not? That's your decision. I'm just not sure how. I didn't want it to be forgotten and then.
I think, well, I think part of the difference that arose may be resolved this next week. I'll be talking to Craig Walker and seeing. I feel as though, and we have Councilman Wyrick, so what happened was the write-up for the ordinance that regarded the historic preservation came to the city council for a second reading. Originally came in, I think, May 25th, and so it came for a second reading. There was questions that came up from people who are friends of ours as to the reach and the definition of visible from the public right-of-way. So again, that has been sent to the council. The council, I think, we'll put it on Mayor Johnson, realized that at 10:15 at night that discussion was still on their agenda, and as the shock wore off their face, it basically got tabled until the next meeting, which I think is August 28th?
24th?
24th?
28th.
28th?
Okay.
And so it's been tabled to that because there were a couple of meetings between this last Tuesday and the end of August that have been canceled, gone dark. So we'll know more in the next week. On again, it's been sent to the council. I think the biggest information is to see if there is a difference, if there is a understanding, and whether whether it needs to come back to us before it goes to the council, because it's a somewhat narrow item in the full concept. And my feeling is that we're all trying to get the same thing done. I think there's not a clear understanding on either of our part.
So do you think it needs to be somewhere just in case we need it? We can always strike it, but if it comes at least to the August 9th, our meeting, if we needed to discuss it.
Sherry, what date do we need to decide on whether an item's going on to the agenda for next month?
The packet goes out on August 3rd.
Okay, so
Yeah.
prior to that.
There's time.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's a discussion of the one issue in the ordinance proposal that covers visibility from right-of-way.
Visible from the public right-of-way.
Okay. Gotcha.
And a definition of the department, the Secretary of the Interior standards. So,
Thank you.
yeah. And as we know, we first talked about that for folks December 10th, 2015. So that's how long we've been talking about that, haven't we, Darwin? Yeah. Yes.
I just have a question about the Ojai Playhouse. I think you were going to speak to Khaled about whether his feelings about us going ahead with a report. Did you speak to him?
I did not speak to him about that subject. I was hurrying that day in order to get information back to Sherry so we can make the deadline. And that's maybe something that we can ask Councilman Wyrick where they are, because I think they have authorized funding for a historical report from the city, but that's what we have. Councilman Wyrick is
Okay.
perhaps to answer that question from that side. Any other commissioner remarks? Councilman Wyrick, please approach, and thank you for being here tonight.
And with due deference to the importance of grandchildren, I have a granddaughter who wants to go swimming this evening still, so I.
That was me last week in Escondido.
So real quick, one is on the nominations. I believe that council will be very receptive if circumstances dictate maybe being flexible with the Lifetime Achievement Award in particular. If we need to move it maybe quicker than December or something,
Okay.
just let us know, please.
Okay, great.
I really think
No.
that we'll be most receptive
Very
to
important,
that.
thank you.
You know. And yes, that cultural resources resolution went across 2 city manager administrations. I believe, including interims, 2 or 3 planning directors. Went through an
It's the
elect.
third right there.
Third, yeah.
No, well, maybe the fourth.
Fourth, I think that's 4. Went through a council election. The beginning council was a committee working with Don and Julie and others, was Severo and Randy Haney, Sarah Laura Haney. Then it turned into Randy Haney and myself. And you're absolutely right. We thought there was something out there in the state that could give us some guidance. There wasn't. We even got proposals at one point. Council solicited proposals for maybe, we could get some professional consultant and they could, gather material from other places. And the answer was, oh, no, this is all just de novo. We got to start for you. Nobody, there isn't anything like that. We asked the county, nothing. So absolutely, it is an example for the state now. We kind of maybe to some degree didn't realize the challenge going in, but that's what it ended up being, and I'm very proud of that. Actually, it was a struggle, but we have something that I think is an example of what other jurisdictions already are looking at. So it's been very, very good. Yes, on the historic resources report, we have debated that at council, decided that was the priority in terms of available funds, and I hasten to add that doing an historic resources report is not a nomination. It's basically a report to this commission for you to use for your deliberations for what you wish to do in terms of going forward with a nomination. So it's not, it's basically providing information and research. It's not a decision on nomination. So I personally supported that decision because I think whether or not that property gets landmarked, I'd like to see an historic resources report on it, just because, well, the ones that we have done have been so valuable in terms of just providing the documentation that did not exist in one coalesced form. And for it just advances, I think, the idea of historic literacy for our community just to do these reports. So that's where we're at. We did authorize going forward with it. And let's see. Yes, I actually made the motion that we continue the item on reviewing the historic resources recommendation for ordinance changes, precisely to try and keep things moving. I thought it was better for us to meet on the 28th and go through our council discussion and be able to provide that information and communication to you as part of this ordinance development process, rather than just do it completely sequentially. So I don't think that anybody on council has any issue, myself included, with you're going and discussing how you might want to change your recommendation before we meet. I think it could be done absolutely. Let's try to multitask if we can on this. I personally agreed with, as you say, your friends and the problems they had with the right-of-way language. I had as well too. I actually wrote up. It's a public record. I wrote up 35 issues I had with the entire ordinance, and that. When you say 35, well, there were every time there was a comment on public right-of-way, that was another item on my. I thought that was inappropriate myself at the time, and I so stated. So I think that it might be useful if you want to, revise your recommendation or deliberate on it, since it seemed like it was almost like your friends of the commission were saying, "Don't pass this tonight." It needs to go back. That was what we were hearing at the dais. So I see absolutely no problem with doing these things sort of simultaneously, because we need to get this done. And it's almost a similar challenge in my mind to what we went through with the Culture Revolution. It's a big challenge, the Culture Resolution. It's a big challenge, a lot of detail. We just got to keep focusing on it and working through the details on it. So that's my quick take, and it's not 6 yet. Anything else? Any questions?
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wyrick, and thank you again for being here. One last question. I'll split it two ways. When we get a vacancy on the Historic Preservation Commission, I think the last one to be filled by Commissioner on my left, and you attended how many meetings? Like 5 meetings in a row?
Almost a year.
Almost a year. Took well over a year. I know that has little to do with you. But again, staff on either side of me, if we could maybe get that moving, that would be helpful.
I do think, I talked to the city clerk, a deputy city clerk, about this the other day, and I think she said that it's beginning to move. So
Okay.
what I can do is send an email out letting you know of a status and time frame.
Great. I may have mentioned this at the last meeting. Several people's term has ended. I think I mentioned that I tried to talk to Mayor Johnson. Instead, I talked to former Mayor Paul Blatz and asked him about that. And he said, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just keep doing what you're doing, and that'll take place." What's interesting, again, they talked about the protocols for the city in their special meeting at 6 o'clock. One of the things they discussed, and I think are moving towards, is, I know in my case, when my term was up, I had to go in and be re-interviewed to see if I was still worthy to be on the commission. I was like a little bit taken back from that. So as part of the protocol discussion, it was, do existing commission members have to be re-interviewed in order for them to continue? So that, I don't know that decision took place in the 6 o'clock meeting.
There was no opposition to making that change, but we have not formalized a resolution on changing the protocols. I don't anticipate anybody having an issue with dropping the interview, but you do still have to have a written declaration that you wish to have another term submitted.
Okay.
Yeah, you do have to have something in writing saying, "I want to serve again." Yes, you do have to do that.
So for the three that, I think it's three that might be here whose terms have ended, maybe 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, you do need to, there has to be a written, on the
I think
record
there's-
request that you put in.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So.
And the code says that you continue to serve until a new appointment is made. But again, that's the one thing. We don't have the interview so much, but you have to, in writing, say, I want another term.
So that's new information to me, so if you could do that, please, because we'd love to have you both continue, so. Thank you.
We'll ask the deputy city clerk to send the forms out to you. I think there's an actual form, so.
Any other questions? Issues? Thank you all very much. Look at that, 5:59. That's good. Thank you all. Bye. Just keep in mind that it's still recording. Your term is one of the ones. I know.